Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of The Hungry Lamb. I gotta say guys, this game has been pretty good so far. I mean, it does touch on a bunch of sensitive topics as well as it's kind of hard to watch some of these characters because of what they're going through. But it's also interesting to see how the main character goes about handling the girls, especially that one. And you know which one I'm talking about, guys, because that previous video was crazy. And I'm curious to see how everything continues on from there, especially with what happens when they finally make it to their destination and, you know, when they have to deliver the ladies to their new lord. So, if anything, guys, we're going to continue on from there and see how it goes. So, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for the love and support. And let's do this. How come you're talking? You're not mute. I stared blankly at the little mute pinned beneath me. She actually talked. Tears in her eyes, face red, struggling for breath under my weight. Even so, a moment ago, she begged for mercy, each word crystal clear. Did being frightened by me make her suddenly able to speak? No way. Never heard of a mute being cured. This girl must have had some sinister plan from the start, faking being mute to catch others off guard. Spill it. Why the mute act? And where'd you get that dagger? I snapped at her, eyeing the dagger that had slipped from her hand. She kept begging for mercy. I glanced at her and sighed. Grabbed the dagger she dropped. My left hand held her arm, the dagger against her neck in my right. I rose, eyes fixed on her, pulling her up from the ground. You probably should have came up with another solution, because that guy wasn't gonna let you hurt him. She got up, wobbling a bit before finding her footing, like a newborn deer learning to walk. Spill it, brat. Why the mute act? Why the hell did you play mute? I kept my gaze fixed on her, each word sharp and deliberate. At the same time, I pressed the dagger closer to her neck. I was still steaming from her failed sneak attack. This brat was definitely aiming to finish me off just now. If she didn't explain, I might actually cut her throat. Okay, see, that makes sense. No one likes him. What are you scared he'd figure out? Swine demon? She looked down, and the mention of that term just made me more puzzled. What's a swine demon? Why is she bringing it up all of a sudden? That doesn't surprise me either. She urgently spoke with a teary tone, and I was caught off guard. Let's be careful still, she could still be acting. But that actually does sound sincere. Tongue and I were taking the lambs to become lamb dishes. I knew the meaning of lamb dishes. It meant people who would be eaten. I remember hearing that term for the first time when I was young, back in the peaceful era, and it gave me chills. But in recent years, there was a famine in Shan, heard in some hard-hit areas. Folks were selling kids for food. Some even sold concubines for cash, dissecting them to hawk their organs. Sounds brutal, but it doesn't seem made up. The lambs I'm sending are actually going to end up as some swine demon's lamb dishes?
洛阳城里有一头豚妖，它重千斤，生性好食人。它有1000年修为，能化身人形，在旁人看起来，他是洛阳最富贵的人，但他其实就是个无恶不作的大妖怪。我们全家住在洛阳附近，爹是个屯药种田的佃农。他有一次来我家看地时，看上了我姐姐，便和我爹说想纳姐姐为妾。爹爹怕他，便同意了。没多久后，姐姐便失踪了。这之后，爹爹去问姐姐的情况，他们说姐姐偷东西跑了，找不到人了。
Sounds like they were lying, and they took her.
我不信姐姐会偷东西，整天哭闹，说是要见姐姐。直到有一天，我梦到了姐姐。姐姐说她被豚妖吃了，希望我给她报仇。她还说，豚妖的口味越来越刁，以后不只要吃女人，还要吃小娃子。
Okay, there's an even higher probability that her sister died.
姐姐还跟我说，豚妖让化州的尹三做人牙子的活，给他送孩子吃，让我找机会给他报仇。
By trying to kill me. The middleman. I listened silently to her tale, pondering for a moment. Not convincing. What she said about the lamb dishes was morally despicable, even for a bandit like me. And all of this planned by a swine demon with 1,000 years of cultivation. Her knowledge coming from dreams her sister sent her. Certainly hard to buy into. You acted mute. Let Yin-san take you just to get close to the swine demon? I asked, ice in my voice. Little Mute nodded. You think I'll believe your nonsense? Swine demon eating people? Sister sending dreams? Don't bullshit me. Don't get how a kid like you comes up with so many lies. If you really want to off the swine demon, why lay hands on me just now? If I die, who's going to take you to meet the swine demon? How are you going to avenge your sister? Ignoring the mystical talk about the swine demon eating people and her sister sending dreams, as I spoke, I quickly spotted the holes in her story. While her tale could explain her choice to act mute and carry a dagger, it couldn't justify why she attacked me earlier. Her reasoning just didn't add up. If I died, who's going to escort her to off the swine demon? Sure enough, the little mute went silent, unable to answer my question. She lowered her head and stopped talking. Seeing her go silent, my suspicion deepened, and I began questioning the truth behind her words. What now? Should I end her? End this lying brat? Or wake tongue and figure out how to handle her? I pondered, biting my lip, when suddenly, I caught sight of bean-sized tears rolling down her face, resembling a snapped string of pearls. See, I'm inclined to believe she's lying as well, and those tears are false. But we also can't forget the fact that she's still a child. So, she's traumatized. I can't blame her for that. Half and half right now.
是呀，白天的时候不是说了吗？说如果我们不听话，会把我们活活生吃。我以为你们也是豚妖，越想越怕，刚刚都做噩梦了。
See, I can't blame her for thinking that either. We're essentially messengers, and we're technically associated with quote-unquote the swine demon, even though we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into until she just told us just now. However, that doesn't change the fact that she has an assassin's mindset, which is crazy.
方才我把刀藏在巨库里，良爷看着我解手，脱下巨库肯定能看到刀。
I should call her little killer.
良爷这次背过身去没看，但若是下次看了，你肯定会变成吞药，把我给吃了。我怕了，不知道怎么做，心一横就想着要刺良爷。良爷，对不起，对不起，我再也不敢了。
Little Mute wiped her tears, crying on and off. While crying, she kept saying sorry to me. She cried, gasping for air, body shaking. She looked really scared, asking me to forgive her. But I still wanted to see. You got it right. Since you've got a dagger, no matter what you say, I'll be suspicious. On top of that, you tried to stab me with that dagger, so I should kill you no matter what you say. I snarled quietly, seizing her dagger, lifting my hand, mimicking a move like I was about to stab her.
良爷不要杀我，良爷不能杀，我再也不敢了，不敢了。
I'm gonna kill you!
饶我一命，良爷！我以后长大了给你赚钱，让你白吃白喝，给你受生死，做精神。饶了我吧！
I will say the actress here is so good, man. I am feeling things. I just, It's a good thing my character is strong-willed right now. She shook in fear, legs giving way, crying with watery eyes, and a snotty face talking nonsense. Terrified, she tried to flee, falling like a scared piglet, kicking her legs while letting out a chilling, non-stop wail. If I hadn't held her, she'd have hit the ground. The night was too dark to see clearly, but her terrified state suggested she might wet herself if pushed any further. It made sense. Seeing her like this, I felt a bit at ease. She had been too mature before, and with her smooth talk earlier, it had me on edge. Now, she genuinely seemed scared, showing the age-appropriate tears. Considering her clumsy dagger move, she didn't seem skilled. Unless I tripped just now, she couldn't have killed me. After some thought, I eased up on my guard. At the same time, any thoughts of killing her vanished. Good, because I don't want to do it. Get up. I sheathed the dagger and pulled her to her feet. She glanced at me, fear lingering. Surprised I spared her suddenly, still sobbing softly. I'll let you live this time. Not killing you for now.
谢谢良爷，我就知道良爷不是妖怪，是好人。
I'm no good guy. Tonight, I can't just pretend nothing happened. I went cold-faced. After my words, Little Mute, who had relaxed a bit after narrowly escaping, immediately stiffened, her expression freezing. Face away from me. I coldly commanded Little Mute. She obeyed, stiffly turning her body around.
良爷，你要做什么？
I'm punishing you.
怎么罚我？
Take off your skirt, and you'll see. Is he gonna spank her? Take it off. Didn't you hear me? I barked at her, the sudden loudness causing her body to jolt.
我不想脱。
If you don't, I'll kill you.
良爷到底要做什么？
Her voice quivered, filled with reluctance. I was puzzled. a sudden wave of irritation hitting me. Why was this brat being so difficult? I said I wouldn't kill her, and she won't even take a simple punishment. Is she trying to challenge me? I don't even think the main character knows what's really going on in her head right now. With that in mind, I decided to go ahead and forcibly remove her skirt. And then, she said something that left me stunned.
良爷，你不能犯法。弟弟跟我说过，法有规，监幼女12岁以下者斩决。我不满12，刘爷要34了。
I froze, and the attempt to remove her skirt came to a sudden halt. Ugh. I didn't anticipate this brat having such ideas. I told her to turn around and remove her skirt, intending to give her corporal punishment. Yeah, that's what I figured. He just didn't think ahead. I wanted to cut a piece of the nearby reed, spank her bottom a few times, leaving 3 red marks. But I really didn't expect that this little troublemaker thought I was after something intimate. In that moment, my thoughts felt childlike, while she appeared mature. It gave me a strange sense of reversal, making me already irritated. Mood turned awkward, chaotic, and even more displeased. How should I handle this to teach her a lesson? Okay. Let's go with... It's... Okay, so, on one hand, if we just go along with the conversation, I don't know how that's gonna go, but I don't want her thinking that that's how she was gonna end up, you know? Maybe he'll tell her that's not what he was planning on doing. At the same time, she needs to be disciplined, though. She nearly took our lives, okay? She needs to learn her lesson. But I also don't want her think, it's either way, both choices, though they may not lead to the same outcome, I don't want her thinking that we're like the demon swine she's so-called trying to assassinate right now. But she does need some discipline, some semblance of discipline, all right, some structure. And he was thinking in the mind of a parent, how they would discipline their kid for being bad, and that's how I was thinking too. I mean, he may not have gone about the proper way, considering the times and all, but even then, at least his mind was at the very least innocent, He just wanted to discipline her. Let's go. I don't want to explain anything to her anymore. No more words. Just spank. I took the dagger she just used, sliced a switch from the lakeside reeds. As I made the cut, she flinched, eyes shut. Afterward, I measured the reed's length with my hands, assessing its thickness. Perfect. This reed switch was perfect for spanking her.
良爷，你这是要做什么？
Doing what? Of course, it's for spanking your butt. Where'd your mind wander off to just now? Time for punishment. A solid one.
良爷是要打我屁股，那你打吧，就是打轻点行不行？
Wait, make it... What? How? That's not punishment! Take off your skirt, or should I do it? Okay, no. Just... Why? Why do you even need to take off the skirt? Just spank her.
我来脱。
Little Mute hurried forward, reached for the sides of her skirt, swiftly used her fingers to untie the knots and remove them. The dim light coupled with tall reeds obscured the details from my view. Then I heard the soft rustle of clothes hitting the ground and vaguely saw her exposed skin in the shadows. Well, it seems she did take off her skirt, revealing her bottom.
良爷，我已经脱了，打轻点行不行？
I didn't bother talking more with her. Everything's set. It's time to get started. I raised my hand, lifted the reed switch, and gave her bottom a firm smack.
怎么直接打了？
That's the point.
不敢了，梁爷，不敢了，不要再打了。好疼，火辣辣的疼，太疼。
She wiped her tear-stained face, pulled up her skirt, and retied the knots. I gave her 3 strikes. The child's skin is delicate, and she appeared frail, offering little resistance. To avoid causing harm to her muscles and affecting her ability to walk in the next few days, I restrained my force. Still, I was certain it would leave 3 red marks. Your life spared for now. I'll keep tonight's event a secret for you. If Tongue caught wind of it, he might devour you alive. I'll be watching you closely on this journey. If you try anything again, I'll kill you, breaking my rule of sparing children. On the way back, she limped, feeling the sting from the punishment. As she walked ahead, I lectured her from behind. At the same time, I asked her some questions. The more I think about it, the less you seem like a 9-year-old. How old are you exactly?
11岁，天启元年生人，属鸡。
Still a kid, too. Oh, you seem small like a 9-year-old.
我吃的少，长得矮。
That sucks so much for you. What's your name?
满岁。
Oh, you do have a name. Mansui. She paused for a moment, then uttered 2 words. How do you write it?
不会写，只知道岁是吃的那个岁。
He's gonna teach you how to write, isn't he, in the future? Your parents surely work as tenant farmers?
真的，到洛阳城后，你可以去查。
What if those words are false?
若有假，我全家不得好死。
I'll check your story as we travel. No need for oaths. I hate being lied to. If you lie to me, I'll kill you and your whole family. I warned her coldly. After hearing the threat of killing her whole family, she shivered and fell silent. She might have been scared, or just been worn out from crying and yelling earlier. In either case, she walked in front of me in silence, not paying me any more heed. Moonlight stretched her shadow as she moved through the mountainous woods. From behind, she appeared slender and solitary, akin to a lone young animal. Mansui. Sui, as in the wheat ear. I silently repeated her name. This name echoed with the hope of a farming family, like the wish for fields to be lush with golden wheat ears. Suddenly, a series of scenes surged into my mind. It was as if I could see a vast wheat field. The endless field bathed in sunlight, wheat ears linked together like a golden lake. A strong wind stirred, creating ripples on the lake, forming waves. Her family held her hand, running amidst these waves. She laughed and fell into the golden sea, smiling joyfully. I knew why Dad named me Mansui. Dad was a farmer, working a hectare of land. The hectare he farmed was all planted with wheat. In spring, wheat was green, and come summer, it would transform into a stunning golden color. And Dad would go harvest the wheat when summer was drawing to a close. Back then, I would trail behind Dad, one step after another. Dad prayed for a good harvest every year and hoped that the wheat would fill the entire field. That's why after my birth he named me Mansui, meaning full head of wheat, and nicknamed me Sui,
小猫乖，小猫乖。
I squatted down and gently stroked the kitten's chin. When I stroked its chin, it would feel good, raised its head, squinted its eyes, and started purring. I couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of the kitten. Recently, a kitten had been regularly showing up at our doorstep. A stray kitten came from nowhere and found its way to our village one day. At first, it would wander around the village entrance, and Dad said that sooner or later, it would be butchered and eaten. I couldn't stand the thought of that, so I kidnapped it and brought it home. I didn't keep it locked up. Instead, I just let it roam around every day. However, since I had been regularly feeding it, it didn't usually stray too far from my home. Over time, it became my cat.
小猫，你娘住哪呀？
I stroked the cat's head and asked it. The cat meowed at me once. I didn't understand what it was saying. But my guess was that it had probably gotten separated from its mom and had been wandering for a very long time.
小猫，你最喜欢吃什么呢？
I tilted my head and asked it. The kitten meowed again. I still didn't understand what it was saying.
我去给你找点吃的。
Not understanding the language of cats, I smiled and gently patted the kitten's head. Then, I walked over to a small clay pot next to the front door. I reached into the pot and took out a small fish the size of my palm. I caught it in the river this morning.
来，给你吃。
I gave the small fish to the kitten. The kitten joyfully snagged the fish with its two paws, licking it fervently with its tongue. And that's when I would take the opportunity to pet it. I put my hand on its back, slowly stroking its fur. It's very well behaved. It doesn't move no matter how I pet it.
哎，小帅儿，你怎么用小鱼儿来喂狸奴啊？太浪费了。
Look at her face.
这小鱼是我在河边抓的，反正鱼太小，人吃不了，不如给小猫吃。
哎，鱼小也都是肉，不如让你爹煮了，就着野菜给我们开开荤呢。作孽呀！这年头这么苦，狸奴都比人吃得好。咱家上下一年到头都吃不了几回肉，这熊孩子倒好，用鱼肉来喂狸。
I hear my grandma's nonstop complaints in my ears. As Grandma grew older, her nagging also gradually increased. She complained about Mom the most, and me next. Mom really took good care of Grandma. She never talked back when Grandma was nagging. Instead, she would bow her head, admit her fault, and adjust silently. I thought that was really smart. If you talk back to Grandma, she would counter 10 times, and so forth without an end.
穗儿，别玩了，来给娘帮忙。
While I was thinking about Mom, she suddenly called my name.
等一下，
不能等，我在给你弟弟喂粥。
帮什么忙呀？
洗菜。
好，我来了。
I shouted to my mom inside the house.
小猫，小猫，我不能喂你了，你要自己吃干净哦。
I patted the kitten's head and tossed the fish onto the ground. That's a cute cat. The kitten obediently lifted its head and let out a meow, as if it understood my words. Such a clever kitten. I sighed in admiration, silently, then turned around and went inside to help Mom. Mom was feeding porridge to my brother. I grabbed a bunch of wild vegetables piled in the corner of the room. The roots of the vegetables were covered in dirt, emitting an earthy scent. To prevent the house from becoming damp, we washed the vegetables outside. I carried the vegetable washing basket outside and started washing vegetables next to Grandma, who was sunbathing. She glanced at me with her eyes half closed before dozing off again. Mom already taught me how to wash vegetables. I scooped some water from the water tank and poured some into the vegetable washing basket, then tossed the wild vegetables in. After soaking the vegetables for a while to remove the dirt, I changed the water and used my hands to scrub them. I wanted to clean the vegetables well so Mom would praise me for being responsible when she sees them later.
今天是5月初6，说来也巧，穗儿诞辰之时也是5月初6。
娘，姐姐几岁
8岁了，她呀，再过几年就要嫁人喽。
几年？
怎么说也得6年， 等她到了14岁，头发就可以竖起来，然后便可以嫁人了。
啊，那我几岁嫁人？
胡话，你是男丁，不嫁人的。
Oh, really?
你要给家里传宗接代，以后要考功名，娶媳妇儿。
I was washing vegetables outside the house and I could hear their conversation. He's my younger brother. He was 3 years old and just learned how to talk last year. Ever since my brother was born, the most adored child in the family has become him instead of me. I felt jealous when my younger brother took away the love that used to be directed at me and the family. There were times when I really disliked him and times when I liked him. So, typical siblings, huh? In the past year, I guess the liking part has been a bit more than the dislike.
Sir!
Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice, which made me immediately stop my job and raise my head. A man was approaching from the farmland in the distance. He was dressed in burlap fabric and wearing a bamboo hat. He was tall and broad, and there was always a tender smile on his face. Her dad? Yep, he's my dad and my favorite family member.
爹爹，
I ran over right away and hugged his thigh upon seeing him.
哎，孙儿乖，孙儿乖啊！
Dad stroked my head like how I stroked the kitten's head.
孙儿猜猜看，爹爹今天给你带了什么？
什么呀？
I curiously leaned forward. Dad then took out the treasure he had hidden for a long time. It was a dark red thing with a weird shape like a wooden ball.
爹爹，这是什么呀？
听说啊，这叫番薯，海外传来的稀罕货，吃了能长寿。
你怎么弄的？
花了一点钱，跟村里的人买的。
这2年光景不好，你还乱花钱。
I really hope he's not a gambler. Oh,
哎，没事儿，偶尔吃吃呗，多下点力气，种更多的地，钱不就回来了？
that would really suck. Dad explained while smiling, and Mom didn't say anything anymore. I put my hands on the potato, which was rough on the surface. It seemed like it had to be peeled first before eating.
爹爹，我要吃，我也要吃。
I told Dad I wanted to eat the sweet potato, and my brother also wiggled in Mom's arms, saying he wanted some too.
哎，什么稀罕玩意儿，我也要尝尝。
Even Grandma stumbled in from outside the house, saying she wanted some.
哎，好，等会儿我就烤了它。哎，别急别急，你们都有份啊！
Dad chuckled, stroking my head and shouting at us. I looked at my family in the house and felt blissful. I looked up toward the cloudless sky. I wanted to find a cloud that resembled me, but I couldn't. What will I be like when I grow up? Who will I marry in the future? Besides getting married, what else will I do in the future? I have no clue about any of these. I only know that I have a wish. I want to be with my family. Forever. That was a nice flashback, though. Shadow played the year of 1632. In the early morning, a light mist covered the mountains and forests. The sun broke through the haze, shining on our campsite. The birds were already up at this hour, chirping without fatigue, as if signaling to the lambs that it's time to get up. Throughout the night, I remained vigilant to observe the surroundings. I held onto my blade, leaning against a tree, awaiting the break of dawn. Mansui's mindset was surprisingly good. Despite the events of last night, it didn't seem to bother her sleep. Once at a campsite, she soon drifted off, her delicate snores blending with the nighttime chorus of insects. Perhaps my spanking last night left her bomb too sore to lie down, so she chose to sleep on her stomach. With arms crossed on the ground, she nestled her head between them, half dozing with her backside in the air. Even more like a cat. After observing Mansui for a while, I took a brief glance at the other lambs and tongue. Midway through, I took a short nap, attempting to sleep with my eyes open. I tried sleeping with my eyes open several times over the years, but it never seemed to work. After a couple of hours of restlessness, I witnessed the sunrise across the hills as dawn arrived and Tung woke up.
起来，都起来，我们要继续赶路了啊！
Tung, freshly awake, promptly urged the lambs to get up. He paced, shouted, and tapped his dagger on the tree next to the lambs, occasionally poking them. The lambs rubbed their eyes, sat up, and then stood up one by one. After everyone woke up, we hit the road. The sun was in the east, and we walked toward it. After an hour of walking, a lamb suddenly called me.
良爷，忧思。
Hong called out to me. What's up? Need to go potty again?
不是，是肚子饿。我没肚子饿，我也饿了。
Oh. I'll go get some grub.
海良，等等，
I headed for the saddlebags, and at the moment, Tongue stopped me.
干嘛顺着这小羊？他饿就饿去呗。我们不是定好规矩了，每天只有正午和黄昏发粮，这样便于管那些小羊，也不会误了时辰。
Okay. I nodded and pulled back my hand from reaching for the ration. Tongue was right. Rules bring order. Fetching grub every time a lamb is hungry would disrupt the routine and prevent them from realizing their disadvantaged situation. Hang in there a bit longer. I'll distribute rations at noon. I walked over to Hong and relayed my message. Their faces showed a hint of disappointment. I glanced at them without saying more and continued on my way. We kept going on the mountain path, moving slow to accommodate the lambs. Climbed up a bit, then went down another stretch. Past experience suggested we were just past Shawa Mountain, into Mount Huashan's territory. Dense trees limited visibility. I couldn't spot Mount Hashuan's peak. At noon, everyone was a bit hungry, and the lambs were showing signs of fatigue. We decided to take a short break, grab some food. But right at the moment, something unexpected happened.
妈的，良，快过来！
Tongue at the front of the line suddenly yelled. He saw something in the woods. A surprised look in his face. He waited for me to come over. I was puzzled. I cautiously moved forward, hand on the blade at my waist. A corpse. Clearing away the branches, what came into view was a lifeless body. Leaning against a tree, probably a man. The reason I said probably was that he had been dead for days, making it hard to distinguish his features. Trees connected to white bones, bones fused with flesh, flesh clinging to clothing, all bound together. Shrouded with black cloth on the head, dressed in a ragged robe, hair unkempt. Face mostly hidden in the shadow of his hair, but glimpses of a bloody hole peeked through the strands. Countless ants crawled over his mangled body, flies buzzing around. They darted in and out of his flesh, feasting on the man's corpse. I was curious why the body didn't stink. When I noticed the insects, the foul odor hit my nose, carried by the wind. Gross. Suddenly, the disgusting smell of the corpse hit me, filling my lungs and making my stomach churn. Xiongha, who came with us, got a big scare when she saw the corpse.
别叫！
Yeah, that's true. There could be people there. Maybe the same people that killed this guy. Tongue gave Shuanghua a fierce look. Shuanghua quickly stepped back in fear. Hong also noticed the corpse, didn't stare, just rushed to block Kui from seeing. Mansui got a bit jittery seeing the corpse, but compared to the other girls, she held up well. She kept staring at the body, looking kind of spaced out. Deadly injury in the neck. I held my nose and leaned over to check the body. The man had a neat cut on his neck. Even though the blood had dried, it was clear that this cut ended his life. Dead for over 10 days. Definitely not an animal's doing. Someone killed him. Corpse is in good shape. No big beasts have come to eat it.
那看来，坏消息是附近有盗匪，好消息是附近没有野兽。
Might not be bandits. Could be someone from the same group who did it. This route, not an official road, but we've been through it before. Hardly ever ran into bandits. Nowadays, travelers killing each other isn't uncommon. I shared my suspicion, stealing a glance at Mansui behind me. Indeed, had I been less cautious last night, I might have been killed by her and left sprawled by the lake. A fortnight later, my remains would be a feast for insects, discovered amidst horrified screams. With that in mind, I felt the urge to give her a stern lesson again tonight.
呀，看看他身上还有什么东西。
Alright. Enduring the odor, Tung and I decide to scavenge the corpse. This is our custom. In the forest, we always resembled wolves. Wolves would bite down on prey worth biting, and they'd gnaw on leftover remains.
妈的，什么都没有，早被扒空了，看来真是盗匪杀的。
Not empty-handed. At least found this. I presented Tung with a unique find. Despite finding nothing on the man, we came across a wooden box nearby. The box of a rich, dark wood and specific kind unknown to me. About 3 feet in length, it housed a donkey hide, 2 braces, 3 differently sized brushes and knives, 4 pre-cut puppets, and a cluster of dye bottles. I knew these things. The wooden box contained items for shadow play,
这是啥？
used for shadow play performances.
影子戏，看来这男的是戏子。
Not necessarily. Maybe he just had to resort to shadow play as a means of making a living. I casually told Tung, and as I spoke, I began packing up the man's wooden box, intending to stow it in our belongings.
喂，梁，你想捡这破烂？这东西连盗匪都不要，你捡到城里能卖几个钱？
I just want it.
那你得把这东西和放干粮的地方弄远点儿，不然有味儿。
Luckily, this box was already far from the corpse. Saying that, I wedged the wooden box into a gap in the stuff of the pack horse.
妈的，本来就没胃口，给你搞得更没胃口了。
We missed lunch by 2 hours. Finding a dead body tended to ruin everyone's appetite. During this time, Chonghua and Hong struggled with nausea, likely disturbed by the memory of the corpse. They held back from vomiting, not wanting to lose precious food. Vomiting would mean one less meal, and it might draw attention, risking a scolding from us. 2 hours later, Tung and I handed out grub to the lambs. I took a short nap at noon, and Tung took the lambs for a bathroom break. Then, he also rested for a bit while keeping watch. In the afternoon, we walked along a long stretch of mountainous trail. It got tougher, but a good stretch of unused trail. We pushed through the weeds, and sometimes I had to use my blade to cut through the thorns blocking the way. Shuanghua's legs got a bit shaky during this, and there was a moment when she slipped into a mountain ditch. Luckily, she had a rope tied around her waist, and we swiftly pulled her back up. After getting pulled up, she was still shaken. Tung mocked with a few mean comments, but Mansui approached, took her hand, and comforted her. Shivering and teary-eyed, Chonghua slowly calmed down with Mansui's silent comfort. Mansui took care of things for us. Tung and I weren't going to coddle the sensitive lamb. Even Tung had to admit, well, this mute lamb is the most worry-free. As Tung said that, I glanced at Mansui. At that moment, she raised her eyes and looked at me with a hint of smugness, as if to say, "See, I fooled him." Her look made me want to punch her. I can imagine that. I knew. Knew she was faking being mute, lied about her age, and was the trickiest, most dangerous troublemaker. But to keep her alive, I kept it to myself, not telling Tung any of it. Come to think of it, why am I even bothering to keep this girl alive? Why did I cover up what happened last night from Tung? We may not be best buddies, but after all we had been through together, why was I reluctant to spill the beans to Tung? Because he actually might hurt and kill her? I didn't know. Every time I wanted to spill the beans to Tung, I felt this tightness in my chest making me choose to keep covering for her. It was stifling. At night, the lambs had another meal of rations and water. After eating, Tung and I had to get the fire going and arrange the beds.
梁，我们把那个小哑巴的绳子给解了吧。
Why?
影三儿本来就说他听话，不用绑。我开始不信， 但现在也觉得这小羊乖啊，不绑也行啊。
Well behaved, you say, huh? Yeah, if only you saw what happened.
给他解了绑，可以多一个人给我们拾些树枝，让我们每天快点生火和铺床啊。
Can't trust this brat. Damn straight. I shot a cold look at Mansui and said to Tongue.
你什么时候比我都警惕了啊？放心，一只小羊搞不出什么大动静，在这山里，它想逃也逃不了啊。
I wonder what would have happened if you were the one to take her to the bathroom instead of me, sir. I don't think you'd be alive to tell me this. Fine. Just untie her at this time every day. I agreed with Tongue and went up to untie Mansui. While doing so, I kept a close eye on her. Of course I didn't trust her. Even though I had taken away her small dagger and searched her thoroughly to make sure she had no hidden weapons. If she found the chance to grab a sharp stone and attack our necks or poke my eyes, it'd be pretty dangerous. Go, get us some firewood. I untied the rope from her waist and gave her a stern order. She didn't dare to defy, nodded, and went off to collect some firewood. Tonight, Tongue would sleep first, and then it'd be my turn. I got a couple of hours to spare, so might as well make most of it. In the next few days, staring at the sleeping lambs wouldn't reveal much, so I needed to find something else to do. I took out the wooden box from my stuff and put it on the grass. It contained items for shadow play, and I went through each one. Briefly, I sniffed them to make sure there was no stench from the corpse. Luckily, the box had only a slight smell, and everything inside was clean. I took a deep breath and laid out the donkey hide from the box in front of the campfire. The donkey hide was thin, had been specially polished. I unfolded the donkey hide, spraying it out in front of the campfire by holding the two corners. The campfire's light upon touching the donkey hide spread softly, creating a gentle glow covering its surface. Oh, I remembered. This donkey hide was called a white screen. In Shadowplay, performers set up the white screen with a wooden frame and light it up with lamps. Then, the performers can control the puppets behind the white screen. Now the challenge was how to use this frame. How can you support a white screen with two sticks?
良爷，不是这么弄的。
Hey, you, go back to sleep. Just as I picked up the two sticks, unsure of how to set up the white screen, I heard a voice beside me. Mansui spoke to me in a hushed tone. I glanced at her and took a quick look at the others around. Tongue had his head tilted back, eyes shut, and the rest of the kids were scattered on the ground, like tipped over a basket of radishes. They were all asleep with steady breathing. No wonder she dared to speak up. Know how to do it? I asked Mansui. She nodded, ready to come over and help. However, as she took the first step, the rope wasn't long enough. She looked at the rope around her waist, then glanced at me with a pleading look. She looked at me, and I looked back at her. Okay, I'll undo it for you. Don't try anything. I walked over and untied the rope around their waist from behind. They're still asleep. Let's not wake them up. We'll find another spot, carry the stuff there, light a new fire to figure this out. I glanced at the sleeping group and whispered the plan to Mansui. She nodded in agreement. I took the box and went with Mansui to a cliff 50 paces away. It had a good view of the camp while being well concealed itself. I told Mansui to gather some fresh wood, and I went back to the campfire for a flame. I got some burning wood from the campfire and went back to the cliff. I threw the flame onto the new wood pile. Mansui and I watched the new fire slowly lit up, brightening the cliff surroundings. How'd you learn to do this?
爷爷就是弄影子戏的，爹爹也学过，也教过我。一次，家里的粮快吃完了要换钱，爹爹带着我去隔壁的村里演过戏，还赚了不少利。
How much do you know?
基本都会一点。
Mansui told me, taking the frame and white screen from my hands. She threaded the frame through a small hole next to the white screen. her wrist thinner than the frame, weaving back and forth, slowly fitting the frame onto the white screen.
良叶，指甲不够高，少了2根，得找些树枝和绑树枝的细绳。
She got stuck halfway, seemingly facing a problem. You go find some.
可我不知道细绳在哪。
Alright, I'll go. I got up and went to fetch what she needed. Went back to camp, grabbed 2 thin ropes from our equipment, and picked up some branches. Returned to the cliff where Mansui and I were, I handed her the items. She started tying the support frame and small branches with the ropes, then threaded the small branches to the white screen. In no time, she had set up the white screen in front of the campfire.
良叶，为什么要把白幕搭起来？
After finishing the setup, Mansui curiously asked me. Just bored. I replied casually.
良叶想让我教你影子戏吗？
Oh boy, they're bonding. Sure, teach me if you know. I'm bored anyway.
好呀，我也正想帮到良叶。之前惹了你生气，正好想做些什么来赔罪。
You mean for nearly taking my life? Mansui continued checking the white screen, smiling as she spoke. The brat knew how to talk. However, she didn't simply piss me off. She wanted me dead. I kept that in mind.
良叶，白幕搭好了，可是还少一些东西，
What's missing?
少了乐器。影子戏一般是2个人演，一人操影，另一人伴奏。这2人中有1人还得唱。
Alright, when we get to the city, I'll get a musical instrument. For now, see if you can handle the shadows and give me a little show.
没有伴奏唱不出来，而且我也不会唱。
Didn't you say you knew all the basics?
我就是不会唱啊，词儿我倒是记得，但肯定唱不好。以前的时候，都是爹爹在唱，我要么操影，要么奏锣鼓。
Alright, just use the puppets first. I want to see.
好，我先试试看小人有没有问题。
She nodded and went behind the white screen to tinker with the puppet. I noticed she needed a seat, so I fetched a wooden box for her. She didn't sit fully in the box. Not sure if it was customary for shadow play artists, or if she couldn't sit down because her butt still hurt. I got up and went to her side, watching carefully. The puppet had a body attached to 2 bamboo sticks. She moved the sticks behind the white screen with her fingers. The puppet wore red-robed armor, looking sturdy, and held a long spear-like weapon while riding a bright red horse. I recognized this puppet. Which character was it from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms? Oh, great. You're gonna pop quiz me too on this? Alright, hold on. Let me, I think I will save over here. Alright, Guan Yu. Is this Guan Yu? I looked at the puppet in Mansui's hands and asked.
不是，这是吕凤仙，关公是木箱里的那个小人。刘玄德、关云长、张翼德，还有吕凤仙，这些都是表演3英战吕布用的小人。
Mansui pointed to the 3 puppets in the wooden box that hadn't been shrunk together yet. After she said that, I managed to recognize all the puppets. The black-faced one with a spear is Zhang Fei. The red-faced one with the broadsword is Guan Yu. The yellow-faced one with the 2 swords is Liu Bei. The one Mansui was holding, riding a red horse and wielding a halberd, was the invincible Lu Bu. This girl knew quite a lot. She even figured out that these are puppets for the performance the 3 heroes battled Lu Bu before I did. Why does only Lu Bu have a horse in shadow play?
不知道，可能这样会显得吕凤仙厉害一些。
The puppets aren't well made. If I made them, I'd give all of them
我
horses.
可以教梁爷做，但是木箱里没材料了。
I opened the wooden box and saw that the dye bottles inside had dried up. You might need to add water to use them. Even if we had dye, there was no spare materials to make significant changes to the puppets. Perhaps the dye in this box was originally meant for touch-ups, and the carving knife had become useless due to the lack of materials. As I thought about it, how did that body really end up dead today? Did he venture into Mount Huashan alone? Or with others? Was he one of the shadow puppet performers? And were there other people with him? Could he have escaped from a theater group only to be chased down and killed? Numerous questions and speculations raced through my mind. However, there weren't enough information at the scene for me to form a clear judgment. I might never uncover the true story. Alright, never mind. Didn't want to think about it too much. Time was short, so I had Mansui perform for me first. You perform. I ordered Mansui.
好，那良夜坐到白幕前吧。
Oh, I can kind of see it already through the white screen. Or is that... No, wait, no, that's Liang, isn't it? Mansui said to me, "Let's find out." I nodded, stood up, and went to sit in front of the white screen. Oh, okay. Sitting down, I looked up at the white screen. Mansui also sat at the wooden box I had just moved, positioned behind the white screen in the center. She wiggled her fingers, and behind the white screen, the puppet of Zhang Fei appeared first. The puppet shook a couple of times, wielding the serpent spear in its hand. To my surprise, not long after, Mansui took a deep breath and softly began to sing.
白袍，恰素宝镜，长发蛇矛，手内我也。
She said she wouldn't sing, but as she performed, she thought shadow play without sound wasn't as good. To find the rhythm, she started humming softly. Her voice was low, like she was singing to herself, and the tone wasn't professional. She was probably remembering how her dad used to perform for her, imitating and singing along.
情欲，去不去交战，贼命难逃仗义斗哎。
That's not bad.
催马，来至两军阵，将马贼人来交锋哎。
I'd be immersed. Mansui kept singing in a hushed tone while Zhang Fei brandished his serpent spear, shouting on the battlefield, ready for the imminent appearance of Lu Bu. The puppet shadow swayed behind the blurred white screen, seemingly alive. The serpent spear twirled, and a bright beam erupted from its tip, dazzling my eyes.